Hi, this is Thomas Cousins. Today I'm going to take you through a series of presentations on the 3-5-3 defense as we've used it the last few years on the high school level. What we feel like the advantages of the 3-5-3 defense are very simple. One, it allows you to use smaller, faster kids on the field. Two, it allows you to put more speed on the field. And three, it allows you to find homes for a lot of kids that otherwise would have never played if we ran different styles of defense. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about defensive line play in the 3-5-3. We really feel like defensive line play is the most crucial element of running the 3-5-3. You have to have a strong defensive line that can play, that can run, and you have to have a nose guard that commands a double team. And in this session we're going to talk about defensive line run reads, defensive line run read drills, our practice progression, and we're going to talk about pass rush progression in the 3-5-3. First off, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. First, is there a difference in coaching linemen in the 3-5-3 versus, let's say, the 4-3? And we feel the answer is both yes and no. No. Tackling, running, and being tough should be part of any good defense, as everybody knows. And we still read blocks, but we just do it on the run. And yes, since our linemen never take on an offensive lineman head up, we need to teach what we call reading on the run. We teach attacking a half a man with either a rip, or you can teach it by attacking the inside chest plate of the man you're slanting across. We teach it, we're going to slant across the man, we're going to slant to the hip of the man we're slanting to. The biggest thing we work on in our defensive practice is fighting pressure with pressure and not getting our defensive linemen washed up the field. Now, we feel like we can break down essentials of defensive line play in the 3-5-3 in a couple parts. First is get off. Absolutely critical in this defense. You must explode off the ball and beat the man that you're lined up over. You've got to cross the face of the man you're lined up across from. Second is pursuit. We stress run, run, run. We're playing smaller, quicker defensive linemen who've got to be able to run. Big, heavy kids simply cannot play in this defense because they can't run. Next is tackling. We work some aspect of tackling every day. Now, what do we want to accomplish with our defensive practices? We want to make our defensive linemen more productive in the areas of tackling, pressure, and pursuit. And we want to run drills that are specific to what we do. We want to run drills that are absolutely specific to what we do in the 3-5-3 defense. We feel as if a drill's not football specific, don't do it. Don't waste a bunch of time doing stuff that your kids aren't directly going to translate onto the football field and do. And we want to put our defensive linemen in real life, game type situations every day. Our practice is high tempo. There's no pads, no dummies. We're live Monday through Thursday. We cut back on contact sometimes. We'll, quick whistle things. But we want our defensive linemen to feel like it's a game every day at practice. We feel like we can break down our defensive line fundamentals in the 3-5-3 into 7 parts. First is alignment, then it's stance, slants and steps, engagement and blow delivery, read and pressure, pursuit, and tackling. 7 areas we design our defensive line practice around. First is alignment. We work alignment every day. We'll line up 3 different ways with our front, and we have to make sure our kids align the same and align correctly every day. Now, this is a simple matter, very simple matter, but we don't want to assume that our kids know anything. We assume that they're totally clueless. So we're going to work the basics, the little things like alignment every day. In base, they'll be head up. In jet, they'll be in a wide 5 and a wide 9. In goal line, they'll be in 4 techniques, inside shoulder of the tackles. First base, we lay dummies on the field and we line up. We practice alignment every day. In base, the tackles and nose will be head up and as tight to the ball as possible. We'll just line them up over dummies and say, all right, next group, get in. Then we'll work jet. Tackles will be jetted 1 yard outside the tackles and the tight end. Nose will be head up and as tight to the ball as possible. and then goal line. Tackles will be in 4 techniques: inside shoulder to tackles, nose will be head up and as tight to the ball as possible. We work alignment, simple drill, lay dummies down. We work alignment every day. Takes about 3 minutes. We're done with it. Next is stance. Our stance is a 3-point stance with our players' feet as close to parallel as possible. Now, a toe, instep, alignment is okay, but it's important that our kids can step with both feet. First, weight is on the balls of the feet. Their knees are in and their heels are off the ground. Their head is turned, looking down the line of scrimmage and looking at the ball. Their arms. Front arm should be well in front of the head. Free arm is cocked by the face mask, ready to strike. The back. The butt has got to be higher than the head. 60% of their weight in our stance is on the fingertips. We use the terminology, they're a coiled spring. They're ready to explode. The feet should be no wider than shoulder width. And our defensive linemen, it's critical that they be able to step with either foot, left foot or right foot. And once again, a key point, this is on there twice, is that their head is turned looking at the football. If that football flinches, we're off the ball. Slants and steps. It's drills, we work this every day in drills. First is get off. And when they get off the football, their initial movement must be sideways and up at a 45-degree angle. It's like a sprinter coming out of the blocks. They have to create force with their steps. Their back is flat. The numbers of their jerseys are over their knees. They have to bull their neck. Aim for the hip of the man you are slanting across. So if I'm lined up on a center, I'm aiming for the hip of the guard that I'm slanting to. Follow quickly with your second and third steps. Stay low and maintain lift leverage. You're going to rip by the center. If I'm the nose and I'm slanting to the left, I'm going to rip with my right arm. I'm going to rip by the center. And if I feel pressure come down on me by the guard, then we have another set of steps that we go through in just a second. Slants and step drills. We do this drill every day. Dummies are laid on the ground. If we have flat dummies laid on the ground, the coach gives a line call. In, out, slant strong, slant weak, or pinch, and a strength call. Now, what's critical here is our defensive line coach doesn't do any drills without snapping a football. Everything we do is on ball movement. I recommend getting one of those balls on a stick so he can stand up and see what's happening and snap the ball, and they're concentrating. Our defensive line coach knows to never do a drill on down, set, hut, or ready, set, go, or on a whistle. Do everything relating to defensive line with a football. In this drill, the coach will snap the ball and look for footwork, explosion, flat back, arm rip, and get off by the defensive lineman. We do this drill every day. They're going to step right, rip, get up the field. Step left, rip, get up the field, move. Now, engagement blow delivery. When we're talking to our defensive lineman, they've got to shoot their offhand across the man he is slanting from. So if I'm the nose and I'm slanting across the center, we don't want the big wind-up rip. We want to punch our arm right across the center's face, or across his chest usually. We're aiming for the hip of the man we're slanting to. When we make contact with the offensive lineman, we either finish our rip by lifting, or if we get stoned, if we get beat to the intersection, we get cut off by the nose or by the center, or the guard comes down and stone us, then it's more traditional defensive line play. We bring both hands up to half of his chest plate, lift, control our gap, find the ball, turn and run. We never want to get more than 1 yard up the field. We work getting 1 yard up the field, turn your shoulders, and run like crazy every day. If we ever come off unblocked, we turn and look inside. So if I'm a defensive tackle and I rip to the outside and I feel no pressure anywhere, I immediately turn my head, turn my body, and run to the center. What's coming? Trap's coming, or kick out by a fullback's coming. Blow delivery. The main drill we use to teach blow delivery is a 3-point step and rip drill. The DL are in stance across from a player holding a bag And on ball movement, they explode and rip through the man across from them. The coach who snaps the ball looks for footwork, explosion, proper arm rip, and getting to 1 yard deep. We work this drill once again every day, working on ripping by offensive linemen. Now, pressure drills. Part of our pressure drills, and when we're talking about pressure, is putting pressure on the offensive backfield. Some of the drills we do every day, one of them is called the get some drill. It's part of the hoop drills we do every day. I know a lot of people do hoop drills. We really like this drill, and our kids really enjoy these drills. The defensive lineman will run 2 hoops, 2 10-yard hoops in a figure 8. Around the first hoop, he'll rip with his inside arm against other players punching at him. It's just working on him running and ripping at the same time. Around the second hoop, he'll rip with his other arm against other players punching at him. He'll finish the drill by strip tackling a dummy. What we feel like this drill worked for us is both effort, attitude, but also it works our fundamental defensive line drill in the 3-5-3 of ripping and running. Next, when we talk about read pressure, we read on the run. If an offensive lineman pressures us, we have to pressure back. Now, the biggest thing, people ask me all over the country, Coach, what's the biggest thing that'll get you beating this defense? And my feeling is you defensive linemen running up the field and creating run lanes. So, what we do is every day we work fighting pressure with pressure and either crossing faces or going back door. We tell our defensive linemen we cannot get washed up field, but by fighting pressure with pressure and not getting more than 1 yard up the field, we can accomplish this. If we slant and our man tries to cut us off, we'll flatten down the line of scrimmage and pursue to the football. A drill we do to work our run reads is called backdoor. And the purpose is to recreate when a defensive lineman is following a trapping offensive lineman or is ripped into a gap and feels pressure from a down block. The offensive lineman will fit on the defensive lineman's hip, who will then in turn go backdoor and make a tackle. The drill is set up like this. The man standing up is the defensive lineman. Yeah, he's a little high, but we work this drill as if he's gotten a little high. The offensive lineman has hipped him. He's blocked down on him. All right? The offensive lineman will fit up on the hip of the defensive lineman. The defensive lineman will grab the hip of the offensive lineman and pull him towards him. And if he's hipped by the offensive lineman, by pulling that offensive lineman, it's going to turn the defensive lineman's shoulders, and he's going to pursue flat down the line of scrimmage. You can see on the graphic here how the drill started. He pulls, he turns, and he runs flat. Now, if that offensive lineman has blocked down on the defensive lineman, and he's got him high and he's got him inside, we work cross his face. The defensive lineman will work crossing the face of the offensive lineman and running laterally flat down the line of scrimmage. Okay? Now, when we talk about pursuit, we must find the ball carrier and take good angles to intercept them. We expect 11 hats to the ball on every play. You will not get good pursuit unless you stress running to the ball on every play in practice. We run extra after practice for loafs, not getting 11 people to the ball on every play. Now, one thing that's probably unique about us is we've never done pursuit drills. We don't line up. We don't have time in our practice schedule to line up and run traditional pursuit drills. So we incorporate them into everything we do, into inside, into team, into skelly, into everything. Punt block, punt rush. We incorporate pursuit drills into it. And we expect and we demand 11 people to the ball. But the main drill we use for the defensive line to teach pursuit is the flow drill. On ball movement, the defensive line will perform a rip to assign gap. When they get 1 yard up the field, the coach will point one of 4 ways. The coach will point right, they'll rip, they'll flatten out, they'll run. He'll point left, they'll rip, they'll flatten out, they'll run. He'll point back behind them, that's pass. Their transition from run read to pass read, they work their hips up the field and they accelerate their feet. Or he'll point to him and then back towards them, and that's draw or screen. If they get a draw or screen read, all we ask our defensive linemen to do is stop where they're at and slowly walk backwards to where they came from. And it's amazing how many times in the last 5 years of doing this principle, we've had balls bounce off our heads. Balls bounce off our defensive linemen's heads by them just walking backwards to where they came from. That's our pursuit flow drill we use. Next, we do another hoop drill. It's called rabbit. It's working pursuit. Our kids love the drill. 2 players will line up on a hoop. 1 player will get a 3-yard head start, and the 2 players will run a figure 8. If player 2 catches player 1, the drill is over. Here's your rabbit. The star on the bottom is player 1. The star up on the top is player 2. They'll run a figure 8. It's working pursuit. It's working to good angles. And it's giving the kids a little bit of fun. We have a defensive lineman who nobody can catch on our team, defensive tackle. We have DBs want to jump in the drill. It's a good team building drill, and it's working specific football skills. Okay, now tackling. Just like everybody else in the country, we pride ourselves on not missing tackles. We work some aspect of tackling every day in practice. We never go half speed during defensive practice. Like I said before, we're always live. No dummies, no pads, no shorts, no half speed, live Monday through Thursday. Now we feel there are 6 basic elements to every tackle. We work these 6 elements into every tackling drill we do. First is your feet. Never, ever, ever gather your feet. We teach our kids to always run straight through the target. Second is eyes. We use the term eyes on numbers because, we tell our kids, you can get faked out by the head, you can get faked out by the feet, but you're never going to get faked out by the chest. Eyes in the numbers. Head placement. In today's society, you better be teaching head placement. We teach our kids your head's always up and across the ball. Never lead with your head. Chest. Lead with your chest and not your head. Matter of fact, about the first week of tackling practice, we'll do tackling drills where we don't even use our arms. We'll just chest bump everything. And what that does is teaches your kids to lead with their chest, and that forces them to roll their hips. Next is high cloth. Throw your arms up and around and grab high cloth. And the last thing we talk about is hip roll. Act like you have a quarter in your cheeks and you don't want them to fall out. Your kids have to roll their hips on contact. We use these 6 points in tackling in every tackling drill we use. First defensive line tackling drill that's absolutely specific to defensive linemen is called the slip drill. We do it every day. It's to recreate when a defensive lineman is slipping off an offensive lineman and making a tackle. Because very few times do our defensive linemen get head-to-head, full speed, bam, tackles. Most of it is some kind of slip tackle. Sometimes they're diving and tripping, but we want our kids to practice these skills. Our offensive and defensive linemen will fit up as if they are engaged in a block. The running back will then run tight to either hip of the offensive lineman. The defensive lineman will have to create separation and find the ball carrier. A lot of times we'll do this drill where the offensive lineman cuts the defensive lineman live. He'll cut him. Defensive lineman has to scramble and make a tackle. We also call this the no excuses drill. Get up with no excuses, make a play. The next drill we do on defensive line is called angle tackling. This is the main tackling drill our defensive lineman does, and it's absolutely specific to what we do. The defensive lineman lines up across from another lineman, and on command, on the snap of the ball, either slants right or slants left. The running back will either run right or left. Now, if the running back comes to the same side that the defensive line slanted to, the defensive line, it's easy. He slants, gets separation by lifting his rip, and performs a proper angle tackle. If the running back runs to the opposite side, this is where it gets tough for the defensive lineman. He has to plant his foot and come back and make a proper tackle. A lot of times he won't get there, but we work this drill a bunch where he has to plant, he's ripped, he's cleared the offensive lineman, the running back starts at about 8 yards, 7 yards, he's coming downhill, running tight. A lot of times that gives him time to flow back inside to the running back and make the tackle. Very specific, very important drill to what we do. Next tackling drill we do is called speed to burn. We'll have 2 defensive ends in the jet speed rush coming off of each corner. Our kids enjoy this. This is like we're in jet front. The defensive ends will have to speed rip by an offensive lineman and strip tackle a dummy. Whoever gets there the fastest is a winner. Our kids love the drill. It's working speed rush techniques. It's working, and it's, we don't even have to be in jet to run this drill. Our kids have slanted out. Now it's pass rush. They've accelerated their feet. They've gone into hunt mode, and that's where speed to burn tackling drill comes in, very specific to what we do in the 3-5-3. All right, we're going to talk a little bit right now about our pass rush progression in the 3-5-3. Now, since we're a slanting defense, we always expect our defensive linemen to be in pass rush mode. Our run reads and our pass reads really are no different. We slant, find the football, and then run, run, run is what our kids hear us say. But because our DL will engage the offensive lineman after they have lost ground to cut us off, we must use more traditional pass rush moves. And what we found out here in the last year is offensive linemen are starting to catch up to us, and offensive line coaches are starting to catch up to us. They're getting smart. They're starting to lose a little bit of ground, then they'll engage us, so that gives us time to slant and do our twisting and stuff in front of them, and they can engage us. So then it's more traditional pass rush techniques and reads if that happens. First, we need to talk about the intersection. We talk about the intersection. Well, first we talk about beating the offensive lineman to the intersection. The intersection is the point at which he tries to cut off our slant. If we beat the offensive lineman to the intersection, we continue with our rip up the field, and play football. If he beats us, if the offensive lineman kicks back or kicks to side laterally and beats us to the intersection, then we've got to flip our hips and work a move. Now, first, what we feel like a good pass rusher must accomplish. First, he's got to constrict the quarterback's area. Can't give the quarterback room to move around. Second, he cannot give the quarterback time to look around or throw to a secondary receiver. Third, he's got to force the quarterback out of his area and throw on a run. Now, we've seen some great high school quarterbacks, but our defensive philosophy is one that we don't believe there's enough high school quarterbacks who can consistently beat us if they're having to move and throw on the run and throw under pressure. So that's part of our philosophy when it comes to move the quarterback around. Force him out of his comfort zone. Next, you must cause the quarterback to lose confidence in his blocker. It's part of our pressure package. We talk about it all the time. He's got to lose confidence in his blockers. How do you make him lose confidence? Through pressure. Send pressure to him, multiple angles, multiple locations. He'll lose confidence in his blockers. Next, you must keep your feet moving upfield. If your feet ever stop as a defensive lineman, you're dead. And last, we tell our defensive linemen, you simply cannot get out of their lane. They can't get washed by the quarterback, they cannot get washed up the field, and they can't get stoned. Now, principles of pass rush. Obviously, a pass defense is only as good as its rush. Then you've got to get off the football. And your transition from run read to pass read has got to be seamless. You must flip your hips and grab cloth. Never, ever, ever attack a full man, and always have a counter move ready. These are the principles of pass rush that we teach our kids. Now, we all know a pass defense is only as good as its rush. We tell our kids, you only have 3 seconds. 3 seconds to get to the quarterback. So obviously you can't have any wasted movement. And once again, force the quarterback to make bad decisions and bad choices. Now, here are some drills we do every day. They're called everyday must. First off, dealing with pass rush, we do get off. Dealing with pass rush or run read, they have to get off the football. There's several drills we do. One of them is the tennis ball drills. Coach stands 10 yards from the player, player's in a stance, coach drops the ball from chest high, tennis ball can't bounce twice. Kids got to come off the ball, catch the ball before it bounces twice. Teaches kids to get off and staying low. Second is simple, get off with a football. Accelerate 10 yards up the field. Like I've said before, we don't do any drills with our defensive line that we don't do with a football. Our coach is snapping the ball, and we're snapping, stepping, and running. Hip flip. Now, let's talk about hip flip when we talk about defensive line play. It's simply the most essential element of pass rush. You must create separation with the offensive lineman, or what's going to happen? If you don't create separation, he's going to hold you. Holding's part of football is what we tell our kids. They come off the field, why don't you get to the quarterback? Coach, I got held. Holding's part of football. Overcome it. By flipping your hips, you not only create separation, but you assure yourself that he'll only get half of your body. Now, we work everyday must. We work hip flip every day. Kids pair off, two players face each other. You reach for the shoulder pads and flip your hips. Get perpendicular to the man you're lined up from. Now, all hip flip is you grab cloth and you get your hips to the side. It's usually just a step. It could be a flip. The drill starts just like this. 76 and 54 right there are starting the drill. On the snap of the ball, they're going to grab outside cloth with their right hand, and they should be sideways where we're looking at the side of their head when they're done with the drill. They just flip their hips and get their hips to the side. Another everyday must we do with our defensive linemen are the hoop drills. Hoop drills have become increasingly popular. Great series of drills to teach body lean and footwork. First one we do is called the figure eight. Two hoops together. They do around one hoop, around the other hoop. It works great for body lean and change of direction. Next one is speed. One hoop, full speed all the way. And as you know, the hoops are a 10-yard hoop all the way around. Now, this is an example, this is a picture of our kids starting the hoops. They'll run completely around the circle and come back to where they finish. Then hoops rabbit. We do a lot of the rabbit drill where I explained earlier, player one chases player two has to run the figure eight before player one catches them. Now, everyday must that we do defensive line play. First is grab cloth and propel your hips up the field. You work seamless transition from your hands in his chest to your hand on his shoulder, preparing to flip your hips. That's part of our everyday must called grab. This drill starts out like this. Players crouched over will punch the other player in the chest, then grab cloth on the outside, grab his shoulder. Bull rush, another everyday must we work every day. Everything starts from a bull rush. If the offensive lineman is leaning back, accelerate your feet and bull rush up the field. This is the only time we tell our kids that they won't flip their hips. Push the offensive lineman into the quarterback. Be ready with a counter in case the offensive lineman anchors. Now what we're seeing nowadays, like I've said before, is offensive linemen are getting smart and they're getting well coached. They'll start to get bull rushed and they'll anchor back. Bang! Anchor. If they anchor, you got to be ready with a counter move. Either a swim, a club, a spin, or a rip. And we work those drills every day. Bull rush drill. It starts off just like that. We're going to bull rush and accelerate our feet and create separation. Now, another everyday must we work is swim. When we're swimming, when our defensive linemen are swimming, it's not a swim. First, we have to pull up and down. And we don't want the big arm raise over or we're going to get armpitted. We want to punch right over, right across his ear, punch, and then slap the offensive lineman on the butt on your way through to clear his arms. So our swim isn't necessarily a swim. It's more of a punch across, slap on the butt. Our kids work that drill every day. Now, next is rip. When we talk to our kids about ripping by offensive linemen, because we do it out of our everyday stance, we do it every day when we're going right, we're going left. Our defense never attacks anybody head up. We're going right, we're going left. So if I'm slanting to that side and I'm ripping, I don't want the big wind-up rip. We're actually stepping and I'm punching my hand through the offensive lineman's bicep. We're going to punch and we're going to lift. And as we lift, we have to lean into the rip. So grab inside cloth and shoot your arm through, lift and push up, lean into the rip, and accelerate your feet up the field. Next thing we're going to talk about is the club. We want our kids to stab off the numbers, use a head fake to that side. If you get the offensive lineman leaning outside, you club, swim, or rip over. And we tell our kids they're only allowed to use the club if they're parallel with the quarterback. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of kids club and come off inside and get caught up in garbage. But we work the club every day. Next is speed rush. First and foremost, you've got to get off the football. Beat the blocker to the intersection, 1.5 yards wide, 1.5 yards deep. Beat the offensive lineman off the football, beat them to the intersection, and accelerate by the blocker. This is how we set up our speed rush drill. We have 2 defensive linemen right outside them 2 offensive tackles, and they're rushing to the man right there in the middle with the bag. All right, another everyday must we work when it comes to pass rush in the 3-5-3 is the spin. Once again, it's used only when parallel with the quarterback. We want to reach with our inside hand, pull, squat, hook with our outside arm, swing our head around, and spin. Now, the most important aspect of the spin is to stab the offensive lineman in the back. We talk about ice pick. As you spin, stab him in the back to clear his body. That assures you 2 things. 1, he's not holding you. 2, you're not spinning in place and the offensive lineman's spinning you like a top. So spin, stab the offensive lineman in the back. Now, we talk about counters. If you're working a move, you've got to have a counter move ready. If you're using a swim, counter with a rip. If you're using a rip, counter with a swim. It's part of our pass rush progression we do every day, and our kids know it. Now, let's talk about our schedule. When we're in individual defense, 20 minutes, the defensive lineman will mostly work run reads. When we go to Skelly, which is another 20 minutes, they'll shift to pass reads. Our defensive line coach will work the same set of drills every day because we feel like it's better for us to be great at a few things rather than being average at a bunch of different skills. Now here's an example of our practice schedule. For 10 minutes we'll work our hoop drills, our grab, and our bull rush. Then for another 10 minutes we'll work our individual skills. Hip flip, rip, swim, spin, counters, and speed. Now we feel like in our practice progression that our defensive linemen are getting put in high pressure, high intensity situations every day at practice. When we're in defensive individual, like I said, they're working their run reads. When we're in defensive Skelly, they have 20 minutes to work, get all their pass rush work in. They have to really work to get all that stuff done. Now, we feel our defensive linemen have to be able to use more traditional pass rush drill techniques even though we're in the 3-5-3 because there are times when we're going to slant by the nose guard or the nose guard is going to slant by the center and the center is going to get tangled up and the nose guard is going to run right in the backfield to the quarterback. That's when it's awesome. That's when it works right. But there are times when the nose guard is going to slant to the left of the center and that center is going to lateral step and stone the nose